There we go. Okay. How do you everything set? All right. So yeah, I'm gonna be definitely clipping probably a bunch of parts of the stream. It's gonna be like a little bit of both. I'm gonna pick and choose. It's gonna be a little bit of both. Um, but it's also this is probably gonna end up being like clipped out afterwards and uploaded individually as well. Just my ideas on certain things, because this is stuff I wanted to talk about regarding the Street Fighter soundtrack history and how it's kind of pretty misunderstood. And I think a lot of fighting game stuff or fighting game soundtracks are kind of misunderstood. There's some of my favorite pieces of music just in general. Fighting game soundtracks are like my absolute favorite shit. And Street Fighter 6's music is currently getting an extremely bad rep by a lot of people. A lot of people I respect in the fighting game community. And I'm noticing a pattern. And it has to do with how soundtracks evolve over time. And the uniqueness of a soundtrack to coincide. Oh no, Chun-Li. She has one of her best themes is from this game. Chun-Li brings in the money. But Street Fighter 6 OST has been getting a lot of shit for its sound. And I don't think it's deserved at all. I think people are being extremely, extremely mean to it for seemingly no reason. Like, I'm gonna put on Ken's theme here. This is nothing like, not this song specifically. I'm gonna pull up Street Fighter V's Ken theme. This song right here kicks ass. Both of these do, but this song is a bop. This is his theme for Street Fighter 6. Very kind of mellow, but still carries that free-flowing edge that fits this character. Yeah, exactly. With a character like... It can also show how a character grows. And for fighting games, especially Street Fighter, where these characters have been around since, in some instances, the 80s. You can see how a character like evolves and are into a new portion of their life. In Street Fighter 5 Ken's theme, this song is awesome. It keeps going, but yeah. It's a very unique sound. Nothing like Ken's theme in the past. It sounds almost like triumphant in a way of... triumphant in a way of, No, that was a thing in the old CVS games, the color editor. It was dangerous. But yeah, Ken's theme there. That's his new one. His last game he was in, Street Fighter 5, here is how it sounded before. Now this theme is the Ken theme. This is a remix of the same thing same theme he has had for like 20 years in the mainline games with very few changes. Very hard rock, like super fast, super fiery, yeah, I'm the cool guy type of theme. And it fits him. Fits him very well. But if you go to SF4 Ken theme, got some passion fieriness to it. It's got the more electronic style of SF4. But it's the same basic melody as you just heard in Street Fighter 5. Different speed, but same basic melody. You go to SF2 Ken theme. Same melody. Soundtracks are so important. And you know what this tells me? This tells me stagnation. This tells me that Ken has not changed that much since 1991. But that doesn't tell the whole story. And Street Fighter 6 tells a different story than than 2, 4, and 5. Now, of course, we have Alpha. Street Fighter Alpha, which is a spinoff. Same melody. Same melody. Remixed differently in Alpha 2. Same melody. Same one. And this attachment to this song is understandable. But to call the Street Fighter 6 one mid or bad because it's different. Because, and the excuse is that, well, it's just not as good as the other. It's like the other one has 20 years or 30 years almost of nostalgia behind it. You just want it to be like the old one. You want Street Fighter sound to remain Street Fighter sound. But the most heralded Street Fighter 3 soundtracks are the SF3's, Street Fighter 3's soundtracks, where Ken got a different theme. In Second Impact, he didn't have one in New Gen. New Gen, it was Good Fighter, which is shared with Ryu. And he shared some themes in these games because he was not meant to be in here. But this one is a Ken theme. No longer holding those hallmarks of the past Ken themes. None of them. Really chill, but does not carry that same melody. And then what is the most celebrated Ken theme? It's not even a Ken theme. It's Jazzy NYC, which is shared with Alex. And yes, there's slight differences. But this is like the most celebrated Ken theme. It's technically not even his. But people talk about Jazzy NYC like it's the God song. Associated with Ken. It's freaking incredible. Whenever this is Alex's theme. But people love it. And they're like, yo, Alex Ken theme, Alex Ken theme, Alex Ken theme. And it just seems like such absolute bias. And such, like, I don't even know what to call it. Just blind hate for something having its own identity and sound. Whenever Street Fighter 3's entire existence is the pinnacle of what we consider to be Street Fighter. Third Strike is hailed as the greatest. It has its own unique sound. It sounds nothing like the other Street Fighters. And then Street Fighter 6 is trying to do the same thing as Street Fighter 3 is doing. This is more chill, not as aggressive, like not as speedy as the past Ken themes. And what is Street Fighter 6's Ken theme doing? The exact same thing. In a different way, modernized. As much as I would love to go back to the pixel art and stuff of past Street Fighters, because I have such nostalgia for it, this is an evolving game series, evolving technology. The music can't sound like this again. Oh, Ken's just an example. Like, I'm using Ken as an example because there's like a legacy to his theme. So yeah, definitely Ken, people are very attached to Ken. Ken's one of the most popular characters for a reason. So yeah, you are right that Ken has it extra rough because he has 30 years of legacy pretty much to his sound. But other characters, like Menon is a new character. He's a ballerina judo artist. I've never deep dived Undertale music, but I do enjoy some Undertale music. It's never been my forte. I love music analysis, and I did a lot of it whenever I was going to college, but never really done it. Never really done it for Undertale. But this is a completely new character in Street Fighter 6. And it's a bop. It's different. It's weird. She's a freaking supermodel judo artist that and like this is a weird theme for a new weird character. So, and people are like, wow, this is trash, garbage, dumpster fire, Street Fighter 6, worst soundtrack of any Street Fighter ever. And it's like, yeah, it's, and if you look up, let's look at the most heralded soundtrack. These two weirdos, unique to this series. It is very rewarding. I sometimes just talk to myself and argue with a proverbial person about defending and just going into the details. Oh no, don't call him Walmart Kratos. He's not. He's like a genetic experiment guy. He's a weirdo, but you're right. Like, this is a weirdo. These are two weirdos. And this is a weird ass theme from a very weird ass game that was creating its own sound. Exactly that Street Fighter 6. Exactly the same thing that Street Fighter 6 is doing right now. Is making their own sound. Giving their game their own identity. They do not want this to be Street Fighter 4 or Street Fighter 5 or 2. Street Fighter 5 looks from 10 feet away, Street Fighter 5 looks like Street Fighter 4. And they're trying to completely distance themselves and put themselves onto a new pedestal. They want to move on from this identity that Street Fighter is represented by Street Fighter 2 Ryu, and Street Fighter 2 Ken. Like how every single crossover, like look at Fortnite and every other crossover Street Fighter does, they use Street Fighter 2 as reference points. That's they play in the nostalgia. And because Street Fighter 2 is the one that started it all. Street Fighter 6 is trying to get as far away from Street Fighter 2 as possible. And you'd think that'd be crazy. But Street Fighter 6 has so much hype going around for it that it's working. And then people are roasting the soundtrack for not being the same hype music that Street Fighter 5 and 4 had, but then also go and jam to Street Fighter 3 Third Strike's music. Yeah, it's like a double standard. And it just has been pissing me off consistently, because I feel like a lot of people are sort of like agreeing with it, and it's like, I don't know what you're listening to or why you feel this way, but you need to take off the rose tinted glasses, and I need to just take an objective look. Yeah, SF6 is trying to have an identity that isn't tied. Yeah, it's experimenting with not just slightly different, extremely different. Like pretty much every Ken theme except for Street Fighter 3's and another one I'll talk about has been the same theme remixed every time, even whenever he crossed over into other games like X-Men versus Street Fighter. It's like a weird... It's that same SF2 theme. The same one. Same melody, just remixed. Again, even in the crossover game. Since Street Fighter 2, it's been like that. And even then, it was only in Street Fighter 3 Second Impact. And by the way, I know the naming if you're not as familiar with Street Fighter as me. But there are 3 Street Fighter 3 games and 3 Street Fighter Alpha games and 3 Street Fighter EX games. Despite them being called Street Fighter 3 and Street Fighter Alpha, there's Alpha 1, 2, and 3, and 3 new gen, 3 Second Impact, and 3 Third Strike. It's very confusing. The 90s were wild. Oh yeah, that's the thing, is that there is a definite connection the player base definitely has like a connection with these themes that have been getting more built over time. It's like, imagine if your character comes back, or like you're supporting a character all this time because of the vibe that they bring to the game, and like that. Like every time you're like, oh, they're guaranteed to show up. Doesn't matter the game type. If it's a MOBA, an RPG, and anything, and that character shows up every time. And he shows up next time, and his entire move list is different. People are going to be mad. People are going to be mad if their kit in a MOBA is completely changed when like a new character comes out and it's supposed to be like the character came back. Or an RPG, it's like they don't use the same weapon types anymore. Understandably mad, but if the change is for good reason, if the change makes sense, if the change is to move a character forward and move this franchise forward, then I think that calling it bad or the worst is extremely, extremely, like, ignorant. I'd say ignorant. Because y'all were talking up Street Fighter 3's music. And it's funny because Third Strike, the last Street Fighter 3 game, which is the one that everyone loves, everyone talks about, Third Strike is the GOAT. Third Strike's music is the best. Third Strike's music is the worst out of the 3 Street Fighter 3 games, which is hilarious. But people don't know about the other games. People just only know Third Strike because the first 2 Street Fighter 3 games were not popular. People don't know that Alex/Ken theme that people talk about is like the peak of Street Fighter's music is been in the game since the first Street Fighter 3 game. Because like I said, there's 3 Street Fighter 3s. I actually have a Street Fighter soundtrack here. There's Street Fighter 3 New Generation. Street Fighter 3 Second Impact. And Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. / Third Strike is here as well. But there's 3 Street Fighter 3s. And the one that everyone gasses up is Third Strike. Whenever New Generation has possibly my favorite soundtrack of all time of any game ever. And that song that everyone loves. Oh yeah, we're gonna get to the tier list. I have opinions on that. Yeah, I'm gonna do that. And it's just something that has been, like, people don't know. People act like they know. People think that they know, but they're kind of just following what other people say. These views I've watched since I was in college. These views slowly go up. These videos had like 2,000 views. And people started talking and stuff. And still, compared to Third Strike's music, this is like a fraction. But I think Third Strike's music is mostly remixes of this soundtrack. And all the new shit is really good. But the point being is that Street Fighter 3's overall sound is its own flavor. And it led to Street Fighter 3 Third Strikes, which is considered to be, like I said, the one that everyone puts on a pedestal. This is the best. The best fighting game of all time. Untouchable, unbeatable, Evo Moment 37. And it's like, know your origins. Like, this ain't even the best soundtrack in the Street Fighter 3 series. It's different. But it's like, you aren't even talking about the stuff that came before to create the things that you loved being different. And then now they're acting like the change in sound is the worst thing to happen to the game, when all they do is play the Third Strike soundtrack in the background of their streams. All they do is play that soundtrack. It's always going, man, Third Strike soundtrack goated, S tier, everywhere. Like, best They don't even know about the other two. And then SF6 comes along, does exactly what Third Strike's doing, / Street Fighter 3, in creating a unique visual identity to differentiate it because of needing to do that, because it is a new generation, no pun intended, to what's happening on screen here. But because the last game they made, Street Fighter 5, had one of the worst launches of any fighting game, not maybe even video games ever, in terms of a content perspective. Street Fighter 6 needed to be different because Street Fighter 5 was so similar to things that came before and so dumbed down. If the soundtrack didn't go all out, didn't change the game, it would be a connecting thread to that past that they're trying to get away from. And another thing that pisses me off is everyone's talking out like they're going to add the old soundtracks to the game if you want it. You don't need to shit talk the developers to tell them that their music's terrible whenever you could just put your, like, there's probably going to be jukebox mode. There's other songs that are going to be in the game from past Street Fighters, because that's just the thing that fighting games do now. So it's like, if this is your attempt to get them to put in the old stuff, just shut the hell up. Like, it's disrespectful. Well, 5 was bland and unoriginal at the start. Street Fighter 5 was, in 2016, was a game made in on 2 years technically. It launched with no content. It launched with 16 characters and no arcade mode. And there was nothing to do but play multiplayer and survival mode. And it was a disaster. It was an absolute disaster. And the game suffers from that reputation to this day. Yeah, now, yeah, people are in the, well, this is another weird-ass song, once again, completely different from a weird-ass character. But yeah, people in Twitter are underneath the new Twitter posts to all the songs and stuff, the ones that are gassing it up and being hyped, but then you have people quote retweeting, or people that are old heads and stuff like that, or people that have been in the FGC for a while, criticizing the music and calling it ass. And it's like, what do you... The game isn't even out yet. How much, it's just, you're judging it based on initial thoughts, and you're judging it based on past soundtracks sounding so similar. And it's like, I know, you're, people streaming and stuff like that. It's like, if you're gonna be streaming this fucking game, Street Fighter 6, and you're just gonna mute the music and put in your own lo-fi hip-hop and stuff that's just for vibes in the background after, a month of the game anyway, then don't fucking talk about the soundtrack. I don't want their opinion at all. Because you don't, at that point, you don't, if you're not going to listen to it over and over again, you weren't doing it before, because they do it in Street Fighter 5. People talk about the Street Fighter 5 soundtrack. So good. It's incredible. It is. Street Fighter 5 soundtrack is amazing. And by the way, this song is so freaking weird, but I love it. But if you're doing that, if you're just going to turn it off anyway after a month to put on your own background music, then just, I don't want to fucking hear your opinion. Hey, you don't care. You aren't listening to these soundtracks. You aren't analyzing them. You aren't thinking about them. Yeah. It's like, you're not even giving it a chance. And even if it was good, that's what pisses me off. Even if it was good, they fucking do it anyway. I'm okay with at the 3-year mark of a game, the 4-year mark of a game, if you're playing your stream background music or your background music when you're playing your fighting game. But if you're going to talk shit about a new soundtrack in a fighting game, whenever you were already going to turn it off, I can't stand for that. That pisses me the hell off. And every street, like, we're gonna I'm fine with instigating and roasting people. I'm fine with it. I am totally fine with that. And people talk about I see you, Pooks. The spin-off game called EX of yeah, music is so important. Street Fighter, the music is I swear like half the game. And let me find Guile. The EX series was made by different people. Made by entirely different developers. Arika made it, which is a different fighting game developer. And let's just we're gonna get a little retrospective here into Guile's theme. I get a little retrospective. Everyone loves Guile's theme. Guile's theme is a meme. It's a literal meme. Everyone knows it. Everyone's been knowing it for so long. It has an identity all its own. It's iconic. But it's had a melody. Yeah, there you go. Now you have an origin for that song. It's a more electronic sound. Street Fighter 4 sound is a bit more electronic, of course. Obviously, it's like 20 years in the future in terms of the actual game coming out. It's the same. It's been the same. And then SF5, it starts off different. It does its own, like, Top Gun style guitar solo. You know, it's got that vibe. And then you look, let's see what most replayed is. This is good indicative. The most replayed part of the song, everyone just goes right to where it kicks into that old melody from Street Fighter 2. The same one. It's that same goddamn melody. Because it's iconic. It's a remix, but it's the same. It's godlike. I once again, I want to preface this by saying that this song kicks ass. Street Fighter 5's soundtrack is amazing, but it is just the Guile theme. And it's like he doesn't show up as much as the others. Oh no, I was just like, yeah, I was just using that as an indicator that people are replaying it from that point. That's it, like it's actually an amazing metric to see the actual part like in the YouTube algorithm that like everyone just goes to that point because it's the iconic part of it. And the new stuff gets passed up, which is kind of what's happening with Street Fighter 6. People were like, yo, when's it gonna kick? People were, whenever Street Fighter 5 was coming out, they were like, yo, when's the actual Guile theme gonna kick in? The actual Guile theme. Because that's what you're waiting for. And then now you have all that. You have that iconic ass song. Street Fighter 6 comes out with this. And to give you the heads up, this never goes into the iconic Guile theme. Not once. It is weird. It's unique. It is different. And this is also the first game since 1999 where it is chronologically further in the timeline than the last one. So these characters are older than they've ever been. It's like they've grown up. They have aged. They're in their 40s, sometimes 50s. Those songs are their past themselves. They've evolved. They've grown as characters. It is very different. And people were talking. This one got a ton of shit. When the Street Fighter 6 Guile trailer came out, they were like, that can't be Guile's theme. Yeah, that's what I was showing, is that like Street Fighter 5 and Street Fighter 4, like they carry that melody. Every game pretty much since, except for the Street Fighter 3 series, which Guile is not in, that melody just kind of carries over. Every crossover, even the modern, if I was to do Ryu's theme has almost never changed except for in the Street Fighter 3 series. Every crossover, Ryu crossover into Smash, he doesn't get remixes in Smash Brothers Ultimate or 4. He does not get remixes of his Street Fighter 3 music or anything like that that's different from everything else. He gets his remixes of his Street Fighter 2 soundtrack, which is what they've been remixing every time, because that's the Ryu theme. That's the one that everyone knows. That's the one that he's carried with him, like the bag on his back. So yeah, like every character, their theme just follows them. And it's like, yo, I can't wait to hear that remix of a theme. Like when a new Street Fighter is coming out, everyone's like, yo, I can't wait to hear the new Ken remix or the new Ryu remix. And then boom, you get slapped with something completely different. And then there are some people who are like, I don't know how to feel about this, but I'm going to give it a shot, which I think is the right way to think about this. You don't have to love it. I'm not telling you have to love this music, but to call it trash and worst Street Fighter soundtrack is like extremely out of pocket. Like, I think that's some jumping the gun hard. But there was a little game, I brought it up here, that the EX series came out in the 90s. This has 2.1 million views, and over the different versions of it is 42,000 here. People are like, yo, for the people that care and the people that actually love this series' song legacy, people think that, like, yo, this is the best Guile theme. The reason why the Guile theme is beloved as before, like in the Street Fighter 2 series, is because it's been used a bunch of times. You hear something enough in the background and you're kind of feeling it. You should probably be like, I'm sorry, I know I'm throwing a lot at you. Yeah, I've spent a lot of time and done a lot of papers, and I wrote one of my thesis papers in college. I wrote on analyzing survival horror games and things like that. I would have done it on music, but it just wasn't working. But this song, Strange Sunset, is a Guile theme from EX3. This was made by different developers. Capcom and told Arika, a different fighting game developer, to make a 3D Street Fighter game. That it was up to them and they could do whatever they want. This song, I think, is way better than the Guile theme. But it's its own unique thing. And people herald this as like, yo, people No, that's PopCap. That's PopCap. I believe you're thinking of PopCap. But the they both do have Cap in their name. But the point being is people play this soundtrack consistently. Like this is like a common like Street Fighter EX's soundtrack is a common like people put in the background of their streams. People that I'd like to see, I'd like to go on Twitch or YouTube and go and just, if I had time, go through VODs. And any of the people I see on Twitter that I follow, who I respect, shit talking this soundtrack, Street Fighter 6's soundtrack, not EX's, if they have ever played EX's soundtrack in the background. Because this is exactly what Street Fighter 6's soundtrack is doing. Guile gets a really chill theme. Like, there's some hard hypocrisy involved here. And I don't understand how so many people can say they love the Street Fighter soundtracks and then get angry when it changes. Whenever some of the most beloved music in the series was whenever the music changed away from what it was doing before. It seems like a way to give people, like, people are looking for things to hate about this new game. Street Fighter 6 is looking too good. This game is looking like a freaking Game of the Year contender. Not a fighting Game of the Year, but Game of the Year. Like a full story mode, free roam, beat 'em up mode in your fighting game where you travel to different cities and open world. And you learn from iconic characters. Like, and like, you can do all this crazy stuff. You build your own character. It has a like, better than 90% of RPG character creator. Yeah, this theme goes hard. Doesn't have an ounce of Guile's theme in this. Just like Street Fighter 6's. Just like this one. I'd love to see that happen. I'd love to see that Game of the Year edition happen. Very different, very weird. Not like the past games at all. The Ryu one pissed off a lot of people. Ryu's had the same theme forever. Yeah, the ones that, like... I'm gonna remember the Street Fighter 4 one as, man, that was a good remix of the Guile theme. I'm gonna remember the Street Fighter 5 one as, that was a good remix of the Guile theme. But I'm going to remember EX3 and Street Fighter 6 as that was a cool Guile theme. Not a remix. That's a cool theme. Do I think this is the best theme ever? No. But do I think it's good? Yes. I've been listening to the same music. I can always listen to Street Fighter 4 Guile theme or 5 Guile theme whenever I want. They're in their games. They're still there. You can enjoy them whenever you want. Completely open to it. There's nothing stopping you from doing that. But this is something that I think is going to grow on people. I hope it does. And it's just been on my chest. I'm getting it off my chest just talking about this because it's just been getting me more and more angry. Yeah. It's like SF. Let's go to SF2 here for Ryu's theme. This is the OG. And what is the think about it, this track was made in 1991. 1990 freaking 1. And goddamn, they went off for 1991. They went off. But it's just a remix of the 2 theme. Oh, wow. Another remix of the 2 theme. Let me tell you, friend, if it was the best. That mid-late 90s, it hit. Just a remix of the SF2 theme. Street Fighter 5. It's a remix of the SF2 theme again. These are good remixes. I wouldn't call them good Ryu themes. I could say, damn, that's a good remix of Street Fighter 2 Ryu theme. Again. Even in... Or Capcom 1. It's a remix of the it was Street Fighter 2 theme. Again. Or Capcom 3. Another remix. Smash Brothers. What are they gonna pull from? I know this is... It's a remix. And then, lo and behold, along came Street Fighter 3, just like I was mentioned. Mentioned Street Fighter 3. Ryu theme from Street Fighter 3. Good Fighter, the arranged or the regular OST. Before Street Fighter 6 came out, this was the furthest in the future that Ryu was, like, chronologically in. No longer is it a remix of SF2. You got a new freaking theme. Not only that. Completely different. It's a vibe, too. It's good. It's good as hell. And it got a remix in Second Impact. Sounds even cleaner. And then in the same series, the same Street Fighter 3 series, because I said there's 3 Street Fighter 3 games. In the third Street Fighter 3 game, he got a new theme. Not even in a new Street Fighter game. The same series, they were like, what if we give Ryu a new theme? Like, within 1 or 2 years, Street Fighters Ryu's theme had more development in it than at that point 10 years, and then it just stagnated again. 4 went back to Street Fighter 2 theme. Marvel's Capcom 3 went back to Street Fighter 2 theme. And stayed it. But people talk about Third Strike's music. Man. Kobu. So hype. Like. Oh, the Second Impact one? Yeah. I do too. Good Fighter. I think it's my favorite one. I think it's my favorite one. And people talk about the Street Fighter 3 Third Strike soundtrack like it's the herald to God. Like this, like you listen to the Third Strike soundtrack at 11:59 p.m. On the right time, and it's gonna cause the fucking rapture. Like it's gonna be like Third Strike soundtrack is literally untouchable. It's literally gonna cause the freaking final impact. You can play it into Divert an Asteroid. But he had a better theme, I think, in the game right before it, in the same series. And it's just this absolute, complete, just like, oh, it just feels dirty. It feels dirty how these people are just talking shit. Whenever this is their favorite Ryu theme is the one time the Ryu theme fucking changed. And then when it changes again, they're like, but I only wanted it to change one time. Why did it have to change a second time? Why did it have to wait? And they don't, because they don't know that Second Impact or New Gen's Ryu theme exists. They don't listen to it. Guarantee you that like 70% of them just listen to the Third Strike music. So they don't know this is the third time Ryu's theme has changed. But they don't care. Even to them, even a second level of change, they're like, this ain't the Street Fighter 2 theme. Well, what about Kobu? Well, it ain't Kobu. Why isn't a remix of Kobu? It does have that mall soundtrack. I'm telling you, see front of you get it. You get it? This Second Impact and New Generation soundtrack kicks so much ass. And I didn't even get to play. New Generation had an arranged soundtrack where it was done with actual instruments. And it sounds... It's that same song, but remixed completely differently. It does not sound like it is a remix, but so different that it sounds so like there's build. And you can love either of them. Like you can not like this version and love the other one. But the best part is this is a remix. A remix of a theme that doesn't have any remixes of it, basically. But whenever... Yeah, it's... just want to throw down. This shit right here, Street Fighter 3 New Generation arranged soundtrack is my favorite fighting game soundtrack of all time. And then it kicks in the melody from the Second Impact, or the 3 theme, but the Second Impact theme as well. Yeah, I will throw hands with people everywhere. I will throw hands with the people that are shit-talking Street Fighter 6. I don't care. See them in the mall. But it's different. The song's different. And then Street Fighter 6 Ryu theme. Let's just go for reference with SF2 Ryu theme again before we listen to Street Fighter 6's Ryu theme. Because this just gives you the most basic form of the melody. Alright, gets everything we need to know. Now we listen to Street Fighter 6's Ryu theme. He's older. Got a beard now. This is no more of that struggling with my past, struggling with evil. He's a sage. He is a master now. He's a different person. There's no, I need to fight this battle against my inner self anymore. No. He's accepted himself. He's moving forward. He's enjoying his life. It's a freaking Bob. And I guarantee you that if I could see the dislikes on these videos, I can almost guarantee you that there would be a significant amount of dislikes. This is funky. This is funky as hell. This shit has got soul. It's not, it is a good Ryu theme. I know, I was just looking up if like how easy it would be to bring back dislikes, but I would have to go through settings and stuff. Like, I'll check. I might do another stream extra bit where I go on to go back to this and just analyze them. It's funny, I don't have light mode on anything except for Twitter. Twitter's on light mode, and I don't know why. I'm some sort of psychopath. But point being, this is different. And they even tell you this will be a good fight. Listen to Ryu's new theme to feel the journey has been on his enthusiasm for the new theme, the new one awaiting for him in Street Fighter 6. They're just telling you. You just have to look at the description like, oh, I understand now. It's a different theme because he's a different person. But no, we're just gonna, man, mid as shit, garbage, dumpster fire. Wow, people really gassing this up, quote quote. Like, come on, bro. God, this kicks ass. Yeah. We're gonna put the EX. We're gonna put, we're gonna put the SF3. We're gonna put second impact music on. Because I think it's underrated. It's underrated. Just background music. Exactly. That is exactly it. No, you got it. Like, that's there's the shedding of the old theme is indicative of a new journey. It's like a character has a design change. People are okay with the design change. Sometimes they aren't. Sometimes they don't like it when their iconic designs change. But usually when an iconic design changes, it's for a reason. So yeah. I'm just gonna, yeah. Where is Street Fighter 3? New generation? S tier. Immediately. Immediately S tier. I wish this had dark mode. Holy shit. This is so goddamn bright. Actually, I think I'm going to zoom. So we don't have to deal with as much light. There we go. Yeah. Even a slight change like yeah. It's, yeah. People sometimes really hate whenever design changes. But usually when design change happens, it's to show growth. It's to show that a character has evolved. And I'm going to do the most... I'm going to make a decision here. I might create a new tier. But I'm going to get a lot of hate. I'm going to put Third Strike in B tier. I think Third Strike is mostly remixes that aren't as good as the new gen and Second Impact ones. So I'm going to put... Where's Second Impact? Put Second Impact at A. Descending scale. See, there's 3. This is actually online edition. I want to put them both here. If I will get roasted for this decision by most people. And even the people that would support the decision to not have Third Strike at S would probably put it at A. But Third Strike has a sin that is something that, like I already brought up, which is that Third Strike has multiple themes that are shared by a single character. So Third Strike Sean and Oro. I'll play Hi-Fi Rush eventually, Pooks. I know. That game's all about music. I can analyze the hell out of that too. Don't worry. But these two characters don't look very similar, do they? These characters don't look very similar. They're very different. One is super young. One is super old in a match. One is super young, learning to train, hasn't quite got it yet. One's super old. And they share the same theme. This song is great. Yeah, characters having multiple themes is not very common at all, except for in like rare instances. And characters sharing themes is usually reserved for like hidden characters. These are two characters that are prominent members of the roster that share a theme and a stage too. They don't get their own stage or their own theme. They share this theme, and I mark Third Strike hard down because of that. And this is not the only one. Like I said, I have more here. I was playing it. This song is great, but like these two, Necro and 12, completely different characters, not related at all, except for that they're both kind of weird guys. But they have no like, they aren't like the same guy or anything like that. They don't even have they have their own stories. And they share a stage and a theme in Third Strike. And then we even pointed out Alex Ken share a theme in Third Strike. And a stage. There's a slight difference between the stages, where the Ken version of the stage is like in the evening in a subway, and Alex's version is in a is more like dark, like it's actually nighttime. And it doesn't end in like, so that's a total of 6 characters that don't get their own theme. They have to share a theme with another character, which to me docks hard points off your game's soundtrack compared to other ones, where Street Fighter 3, new generation, yeah, it has less characters, but you know what makes it different is that only Ryu and Ken share Ryu and Ken are different characters in this game. They're more than palette swaps, and they share Yun and Yang are the same character technically. They are literally the same. Like you play as them, they have the same moveset, so they don't really count. So out of the entire soundtrack, this one has only one stage and theme that is shared. Whereas, let me just go back to the second. Oh, I just turned second impact back on. Whereas Third Strike has that happen 3 times. And I dock points because, as I said, the Third Strike remixes, a lot of the music that people say is like the prominent stuff that they love is remixes. Jazzy NYC, the song that everyone talks about for Third Strike. This one right here has been in there since New Generation. Second Impact, they remixed it, and then Third Strike, they remixed it again. And that's the one they always say. It's like, yo, but Jazzy NYC. It's like, Jazzy NYC ain't even from the game. It's not even the best version. And that's one of the tracks that's tied to 2 characters. So it's essentially no new themes for those characters. So I marked that relatively low. Third Strike is hard carried by its original music, of which there isn't as much. Third Strike has a very unique sound to its original stuff. And I will say that Third Strike has possibly my favorite song of all time. Not even fighting game song. My favorite song of all time. Of Killing Moon. Killing Moon right here is possibly my favorite song of all time. But one song can't carry a soundtrack. I will always stand by that. I could be biased. I could just say, you know what? Killing Moon just elevates the soundtrack to the best. It's like, just Killing Moon exists, which puts Third Strike higher. But no, I can't. This song is the workout song. This song is the chill song. This song can be used for anything. I cook to this song. Song goes so hard, but this is the best song in the entire soundtrack, and possibly the best song Street Fighter has made, in my opinion. Or Street Fighter soundtracks, like, this is the peak, but doesn't carry every other song up. Yeah, that drum and bass, that percussion. It kicks ass. So yeah, despite that being godlike, I think there's too many things against this game. And the music for returning characters that is new isn't as good as past stuff. And you want to know how I have a metric for this. You might think that, well, music's objective or music's subjective and stuff like that. But Capcom is aware of these types of things. And is aware of Third Strike's effect and blueprint on Street Fighter's DNA. 6 is the new one, 6 one is very inspired by Third Strike. Not New Gen and Second Impact's style, Third Strike style, which is a bit different. It's more hip-hop inspired, even though New Gen had a ton of hip-hop as well. They're very aware. But even before 6 was legitimately announced, they had characters coming back. So let's look. We just listened to Oro, the Longshoreman theme we were just listening to. Just want to quick go back to it, just so we can get a little quick refresher. It's pretty good. pretty good. But Second Impact Aura theme. Weirder. More almost ominous. But not quite. Which is kind of like mysterious, I'd say, for him. Which makes sense. He's a hermit. He's over 100 years old. Super martial arts master. Freaking telekinesis. It's weird. It's different. And then, this character didn't show up for years. Almost never showed up in anything. Never playable in any other game except for Street Fighter 3 series. In Street Fighter 5, one of the last DLC characters to come out for Street Fighter 5 was Oro. In Street Fighter 5, I talked shit about it earlier. It really picked up its game after 2 or 3 years of it existing. It took too long because people still have a bad taste in their mouth for it, and some people will never like it because of that first year or 2 years where it was just terrible. But it really picked up. And in Street Fighter 5, Oro came back. And what theme did they use? Would you believe it? They used a Second Impact theme over his Third Strike theme. Third Strike, but I thought Third Strike music was the god music. I thought Third Strike music was the end all be all. Third Strike music funded my kids' college tuition. Third Strike music saved me when I was drowning. I thought Third Strike music was it, right? People are parroting that shit. This is a remix of Second Impact music. The Second Impact theme. Ain't that crazy? I was like, when they announced this character, I was like, I really hope they pick his Second Impact theme and everyone else. Yeah, Third Strike music cure cancer. It can do it. It'll do your taxes for you, man. Third Strike music will do your taxes. That's what everyone says. That's how they gas up Third Strike's music. And once again, I'm not saying Third Strike music is bad. I put it at B tier. It could honestly go to A tier on a different day. But people really love to talk about Third Strike's music and not talk about Second Impact or New Generation's music. And wow. And then it comes out and people are like, yo, guess what happens? This comes out and people are like, yo, this Oro theme though, this kicks ass. And I'm like, yeah, you're right. And then Street Fighter 6 comes out with new stuff because they never heard the Second Impact Oro theme. So it's new to them. They only heard the Third Strike Oro theme because nobody really plays Second Impact and New Gen competitively. There's a little bit of Second Impact competitive. But New Gen, almost nothing. And it is just... And then they embrace the difference that is this theme, but then they oust the Street Fighter 6 music. And this isn't the only instance of this. Third Strike, Gil, who is a heads up, is in a freaking like diaper essentially. It's not really a diaper, but he's like he's a multicolor Adonis man. Do not demonetize me, YouTube, even though I'm not monetized at all. But Gil is the final boss, and Third Strike, his music is this. Some nice drum and bass. It's really freaking good. But it is... It's really good. It is really freaking good. It's got that drum and bass. But then it just loops as well. But Second Impact, he's also one of the few characters to get a new theme every version of Street Fighter 3. This is... It's like... This sounds mystical, ominous. Yes, I have. I have multiple versions of Gil's theme as background music for my stream. Not Third Strikes, because I think it's too, like... I use it for, like, boss fight music and stuff like that. But I have used Second Impact, this theme, for his background music for his stream. Because it's so good. And then, Gil came back. Gil came back in Street Fighter 5, just like Oro. Not Guile, Gil. And lo and behold, it's a remix of his Second Impact theme. Not his Third Strike theme. Once again, Third Strike theme still kicks ass. But if Capcom wanted, they could have just gone with the nostalgia route of, like, everyone gasses up Third Strike music. It cured cancer. It did my taxes. Saved my kid whenever he was falling off a building. It hurted my livestock. But they recognized that, wait, Second Impact's music, though. New Generation's music, though. Let's bring that back. Let's bring that to the table instead. And guess what? The trailer for Gil came out. Everyone was like, yo, the Gil theme. Give me the Gil theme right now. That sounds godlike. Everyone was a Second Impact fan all of a sudden. Everyone was like, yo, is that his Second Impact theme? I'm like, yeah, you're right. That is a Second Impact theme. Isn't that great? Wow, it's so different from his Third Strike theme. People that didn't know. Like, and I guarantee you some of those people who were hype for Second Impact Gil theme to come back as Street Fighter 5 are shit-talking Street Fighter 6's music. And if that ain't one of the most insane, hypocritical things I've ever heard. Music is subjective, yes. But that also means calling something bad because it's different. And you can't give me a reason. Because it's like, another thing people throw around. This doesn't seem like music I could fight to. But you're fighting to this? Yeah, it works. That's always been the biggest lie. Everyone's like, I can't fight to this. Yes, you can. It's hype. You don't need fast-paced, intense, aggressive music to fight to. You don't need it. The fight is going to continue on, and sometimes the background music being more mellow and more vibe can help the game flow and help, like, can zone you in. It's something that is, like, it is an excuse that's always thrown around. It's just like the excuse, well, this isn't going to be as replayable. Oh, definitely. More people start, yeah. Herd mentality, like, whenever, like, a group of people start gassing up a song or anything, there will be people that will flock to it and say, you know what? Yeah, I like that too, because other people are liking it. But it will also similarly create a group of people that will hate on it for the exact same reason. Always. Like clockwork. And go back to this. And so it seems to me that people need to re-examine this music's history and this game's soundtrack history and really look inwards and say, maybe your opinion is just ass. Like, maybe you need to look inward and think maybe you're a crotchety, like, biased person when it comes to these game soundtrack. You're an elitist. It's like, you could call me an elitist the way I'm grading this. I very clearly have a stake in this. I very clearly, I'm a fighting game music snob. But when I don't like a sound, when I don't like a song, usually it's because it is just like, man, this is bad. Like, this just doesn't sound like good. This isn't mixed well and stuff like that. Things like that. But most of the time when I don't like a soundtrack, I'll be like, it's just not for me. I don't go for the throat. I don't say, I don't like attack a soundtrack because it ain't for me. And like, honestly, if we're looking at this thing, I think, if we're being completely honest, I think Street Fighter 5's up there. I think Street Fighter 5 is above Third Strike. I would get shit for that. I know I would. But I think it's above Third Strike. Cross Tekken, I probably put C tier. I don't think there's a single, you know what, Marvel's Capcom Infinite's on this list. Infinite's soundtrack is D tier. It's terrible. There's like 1 or 2 good songs, maybe 3. But nothing else on here, I think, goes below C tier. At all. Like Super Street Fighter 4, I'd honestly put above Third Strike. TVC I put on the same level. Where's EX3? Is EX3 on here? Yeah, I put EX3 at this. But it's just something that has been wearing on me as someone who has a big stake in all this. I have been listening to Street Fighter's music ever since I had like a CD player. I had burned this stuff on CDs. One of the only songs I had was Jazzy NYC and stuff on like a CD player. We could. It's hard to rank all of these, but because it's sometimes hard to rank the ones that are kind of like Street Fighter 4. We already have Super Street Fighter 4 on there, which I'm just putting every version of Street Fighter 4 as that. I'd put MVCs as B tier. MVC 1s. Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter is probably... honestly, probably put that one A tier. CVS 1. I actually like more CVS 2. Capcom Fighting Game, not good. Actually, that's D tier as well. Alpha 2 Gold is what I would put this. And I would put it probably here. And Ultimate Marvel 3, I'd probably put here. Probably put Alpha at B tier. EX3 honestly might be at top of A tier. I'm definitely gonna analyze them. Don't worry. What's Super Turbo? I was gonna put Super Turbo as Grandmaster Challenge. Super Turbo, probably gonna put. It's hard to rank older ones because these are so simple. These songs are so simple. But impact matters, so I guess I'll put it here. No, that's actually their Super Turbo. I didn't realize. And Tatsunoko, probably B tier. Is there even Alpha 2 on here? Is it just... Yeah. Okay, yeah, I already did Alpha 2. Alright. And that probably is going to be in my main list. EX plus Alpha. You know, EX plus Alpha goes up here as well. This isn't even... There's no Marvel 2 on here. This is not a complete list, but this is a good, mostly main Street Fighter list. But with Street Fighter and how the soundtracks go. Yeah, what do you... Are you gonna... About the Skyrim soundtrack? But, I guess my main point is that fighting game soundtracks need to evolve. And they need to have an identity to them. And I think that identity carries on to the next generation that's going to play the game. You haven't heard Skyrim soundtrack yet? Oh, Skyrim soundtrack's really good. Really good. I got a lot of problems with Skyrim as an actual game. Soundtrack kind of kicks ass. There's some really good songs on the Skyrim soundtrack. It's very relaxing. It's very nice. It fits the world. Yeah. I'm realizing that my chat is updating visually on the left, but on my stream setup, it's sometimes not updating right. So, I just saw your New Vegas like Legion thing. It didn't show up initially on the right. It's showing up on stream, but on my actual chat window, it's kind of lagging behind, unfortunately. But yeah, identity is important, and most importantly, you're making a new fighting game for new players. You want the old players to come back. That's your biggest goal. But when you're selling a game, you are selling it based on the fact that you want more than just the people who played your game before to buy the game. This is just basic, like, sales and everything that goes, like, just all the stuff that just that's how a game is sold. You can't sell it to the people, just to the people who are already gonna buy it. I'm gonna buy Street Fighter when it comes out, no matter what, because I'm just a super fan. You're not trying to sell me. These people that are shit talking the soundtrack, they're gonna buy the game. No doubts. I have no doubt that they're gonna buy the game. That is guaranteed to me. A lot of these people are people that love fighting games and stuff. They talk. I've heard this has happened before. They're gonna buy the game. You're not selling it to them. You're selling it to a new audience. If the goal of games was to make the same amount of money each time you make a sequel as the last game, then there wouldn't be a business. You want Street Fighter Alpha to outsell Street Fighter 2. You want Street Fighter 3 to outsell Street Fighter Alpha. You want Marvel vs. Capcom 2 to outsell Marvel vs. Capcom 1. And then 3. You want an ascending scale of profits. As much as I love the spirit of these games and their history, and I've studied it, and I've wrote papers on it, they're being made to make money. The people who are making the games have passion, and they don't just throw these games out here. Like, every Street Fighter game has love put into it, an absurd amount. But at the end of the day, these people don't get to come back and work on this franchise that they love if the game doesn't sell well. So you want to keep selling better. So Street Fighter V did not sell well. It had almost nothing to appeal to the casual market. Nothing. There was a 2-fight arcade mode for some characters, sometimes 1 fight. Survival mode, training mode, and versus mode. There was nothing for a person that didn't want to get into the game competitively to do other than go online and either win or lose. They sold that game, and it was featured at launch towards people that were going to buy it anyway. That's what happened. And so that game is now associated with, oh man, Street Fighter went esports. It's for the esports people. It's for the competitive players. But then also, it did a bunch of changes to the game's DNA and mechanics that competitive people didn't like. So it was for really nobody until they fixed the game and made it an actually fun fighting game, which it is now. It has more than double the characters it had at launch. It has a story mode now. But the identity of the game was, this is like Street Fighter 4 with less content, which is bad. Not good. And even, like I said, the soundtrack, guess what? The soundtrack, for how good it was, is mostly remixes. Tying back to Street Fighter 4, which is tying back to Alpha, which is tying back to Street Fighter 2. Street Fighter 6 now is coming out the gate swinging. Street Fighter 6 has a full open world adventure mode where you can learn all your favorite moves from every character. There's dialogue. There's RPG elements. It is a full feature-rich game. There's like emotes you can do. There's lobbies. You can meet with your friends. You can fight them on the streets. You can fight your created characters. The character creator of Street Fighter 6 has created some monstrosities. You can do full-on like some character creation that rivals, like I said, some of the best in the business. Some of the best character creation in existence for a fighting game. And fight with that character. It's launching with mini games. It's launching with a style. Like if we look at Street Fighter V UI, this is the character select for Street Fighter V. Right here. This is what it looks like. Your characters are posing with pictures. This looks like a fighting game character select screen that's just like, this is what you'd imagine. Like, oh yeah, that's a fighting game character select screen. Look at Street Fighter 2's. Kind of pretty similar. Street Fighter 6's character selection. Hell yes. Your characters are in a unique pose, full body view, juxtaposed against a graffiti covered garage wall. Like, there's lighting, there's neon. You're only seeing 4 characters here because it's not the full game out yet. But do we use melee builds in New Vegas because of Street Fighter? I'd say that's an inspiration. Like I said, whenever I do the uppercuts and stuff, I just instinctively will go, sure you can. Like just a full, when you're uppercutting someone's head off. Oh yeah. I like imagining I'm doing some cool ass moves. But yeah. Street Fighter 5 character select. And like, let's just go into actually, let's see if this shows the selection sequence. Yeah. So when you select your characters, they stay in the same pose. Make your characters, they say something. And they do a little pose, but they're in their fighting game stances. But in Street Fighter 6, when you select your character, oh. I'm sorry, sir. I do not want to hear your voice. You select your characters. The garage door opens. They pose. And they do a fucking walkout. Like they're in a wrestling event. And the walkout is different depending on the stage you pick to play on. So if you saw, it had the Torii gates, the Japanese Torii gates. Because they're going to the temple stage. I wonder if they pick other stuff here. Temple stage, I think, was one of the only stages you could play here. Oh yeah, here you go. So the next one, they have the Mad Gear gang. Like there's neon. They're in the city. The background changes. There's no gate there anymore. Instead, you got neon. They are trying to completely reverse what happened with Street Fighter V. A complete reversal of what everyone had a problem with. Which was that the game was too focused on the people that were already going to buy the game. Now they're like, fine. This next game, there's going to be no punches pulled. Nothing. No pun intended there. There's going to be no punches pulled. And we're going to appeal to the, we're going to do stuff that we don't have to do. Who'd have thunk it? Like a fighting game comes out that's feature rich with things to do instead of just fighting people. So people who spend $60 or $70 on the game have an actual reason to play it other than to fight their friends or go on online and get mad when they lose or happy when they win. They could, they didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do a garage door intro. They didn't have to do walkouts. They had to do it. You just if the walkouts alone would have been crazy enough, but the fact that they change depending on the level that you're on, and there's a different song that plays in the background, that is above and beyond. They could have just remixed the same music from Street Fighter 2 that they've been doing forever. They could have just done that. It would have been real easy. Just get some composers in, do us a remix in the hip-hop style, since we'd start trying to be like Third Strike. But no. They composed entirely new songs for these characters. Because we're like, we are not cheaping out. We are not appealing just to the person who's going to get competitive and wants to get better at the game to rank up on ranked mode and see their level go up. We are appealing to the people who maybe enjoy this game series casually. People that maybe aren't great at it, but there may be people that just love Street Fighter and just love the aesthetic, love the characters. They love the music. And they just love the feeling of the entire universe. I'd say I'm pretty decent at Street Fighter games. I'd say I'm probably a little bit above average. At Third Strike, I'm probably a little bit higher than above average. Maybe Street Fighter 5. But most Street Fighter games, I consider myself above average when it comes to actually playing at a higher level. But there are people that would just play it. Yes. The game is being aimed at a much bigger audience. Not even just different. It's being aimed... The net is being cast wider. Much wider. Street Fighter 5, the net was like a tiny little shrimping boat. And now we're on fucking Deadliest Catch. That net is being cast everywhere. Everyone can come and play. You don't have to be good at the game. Here is a full story mode that could take who knows how many hours to beat. You can talk with every character. No, they didn't stop acknowledging what the older player base wanted. The gameplay and everything and the characters are still there. The iconic things that people knew about the game are all there. But they went and added more. They aren't forgetting about the old players at all. The systems of Street Fighter 6 are way more complicated than Street Fighter 5's. Street Fighter 5's, which was more pointed at a competitive audience. Street Fighter 6's systems and overall mechanics are much more complicated. But it's being aimed at a casual audience as well as a competitive audience. Because at the end of the day, dumbing the game down, which is what Street Fighter 5 did at launch, despite trying to get competitive people to play it, doesn't work. People get bored of watching the same thing over and over again, which is what happened, why Street Fighter 5 lost a huge portion of its viewer base early. It's why the fighting games struggle a lot of the time. And Street Fighter 6 is making the game have a ton of systems. You have a ton of options. Every character has more moves than they've ever had ever. There's tons more to do in the game if you're a casual player. And if you want to break into the competitive side of the game, characters have more depth than they've ever had. So theoretically, they're giving something for everyone. This game has something for everyone. I would recommend people to buy this game if this was their first fighting game. I would recommend people to buy this game if they've been playing fighting games their whole life. I would recommend people to play this game if they have they don't care about fighting games. Because this game is shaping up, with everything we've seen, to just be a very bang for your buck type game. And the fact that one of the aspects of this game and its efforts to move the game forward, move the series forward, the characters forward, actually care about the story. Because Street Fighter V's story, I love it, is told very poorly most of the time. There's legs to this story. It can run. But man, you have to dig deep, and you have to really play everything, and you really have to read the comics and stuff like that. It's like Halo, where it's like, man, the Halo games after 3 and Reach, the story's kind of like bare bones, but then in the books, there's some awesome, crazy nonsense going on that is really hype. And Street Fighter kind of had that problem. And Street Fighter 6 is not trying to do that. Street Fighter 6 has laid out a groundwork that, Ken's on the run because he was framed for corporate espionage and stuff. And so he had to leave his family, and that's why he's got the coat on. He's working construction jobs. He's he doesn't have access to his fortune and stuff, which is more than he's ever had. Ken usually shows up and he's like, yeah, I'm fiery fight guy. I like punching things. Hey, Ryu, you're my rival. And now he shows up down on his luck and wanting to prove himself, prove his innocence, prove that he's still got it, prove that he's not to be left behind. And his theme is reflective of that. It sounds like somebody who's I'm here to prove myself that I haven't lost it and that I'm innocent and that they're wrong about me. It's like an anthem of not giving up. It's not super loud and flashy. Yeah, I'm going to fight everyone and I'm cool and stuff like that. This sounds like somebody who's got something to prove. I'm going to stand up and fight. He's old now. He doesn't have that same, he's got that fire, but it's tempered. He's not, he's in his 40s now, I'm pretty sure. No more, crazy quips and stuff like that. He's a grown man. He even has in the betas that they released for this game, he even has a line if you beat Ryu where he just tells him to continue being the way he is because Ryu is his anchor. Ryu's Ken respects Ryu because he's always so steady and he's always so set in his ways and that he's he's like, no matter what, Ryu can handle the problems thrown at him, and Ken has had more of a crazier life than Ryu with like his problems. And so it's like that little moment in dialogue is sometimes more than Ken and Ryu have had since the anime movie in the 90s. And that just tells you that there's a reason for these themes to have changed. It's not just to appeal to a newer audience, which it is a part of it, but goddamn, they have a purpose in terms of the character's new story. So the people that are complaining about this stuff and being gung-ho about calling it the worst Street Fighter soundtrack in history, like, you have so little to complain about. Like, is this really where you're aiming? I hope that you have fun. I hope that you enjoy playing the same music you've been listening to. It's not like I'm not going to do that. I'm going to set it to rotation. But if you can't understand why this needed to happen, if you can't understand that these themes needed to change, not just because of the characters, but because of the relation to the past of this series' existence, which was releasing an arcade game to consoles, paying $60 for arcade mode. Even if Street Fighter V launched with Street Fighter 4's content, it would have been behind the times. People are now like $70 for a full price game now. Are you going to buy Elden Ring? Or are you going to buy, like, if Street Fighter V came out now, you're going to buy God of War Ragnarok, Elden Ring, or Street Fighter V. If Street Fighter V came out with the content it has now, with multiple arcade modes, and everything it has, and tons of, like, alternate costumes and stages, you're going to buy Elden Ring or God of War. The average person's going to buy it. Buy that. They're not going to buy Street Fighter V. Because they look at what it has to offer. Even at its maximum point now, with like 40-something characters, almost 50 characters, you're not going to get those people. These changes to Street Fighter 6 were necessary. And I think they do a lot to show how not only do the developers care, but they are throwing everything at this. I can't see this game not doing well. And you're grasping at straws if you're going to, like, call this game out because of the soundtrack. So yeah, this is my, like I said, this is a rant, pretty much. I'm analyzing, but I'm also ranting and calling people out and instigating. Because I want people to just kind of not take this shit. Like, to not just say, like, oh yeah, maybe you're right. Yeah, this is ass. Or this is not this is the worst Street Fighter soundtrack. It's like, dude, they could have just remixed the same fucking soundtrack that they've been doing for 20, 30 years. And they didn't. They changed Ryu's design for the first time ever. Ever. Ryu has never had his design change, his base design change ever. And here we are, where he has. And you're pissed that accompanying that new design is a new theme. Why does this theme sound more chill? Why does it sound so different? This doesn't fit Ryu. It doesn't fit the Ryu of the past, maybe. It doesn't fit that Ryu. But this is a Ryu this is a master. The other one was on his journey to becoming the master. Now he's here. Would you want Ryu to have a theme that was like, yeah, I'm a badass stuff? It's like, no, he's a Zen master. He's a martial arts master who lives in the mountains, doesn't really talk to people, and loves to wander and fight for the joy of it. And now he has conquered his demons literally. So of course, his theme isn't going to sound the same. And of course his theme is going to sound more chill and not as triumphant. There's nothing to be triumphant about. He's not celebrating anymore. He just is. Yeah. This shit is, it's important to me. The legacy of these games and the music and the themes that came with it. Not just the musical themes, but the vibe they carried with them. They all have their own sound. Even if they are just remixes. Even the past ones are remixes. Because once again, I'm not calling out those remixes for being bad. Street Fighter 4's music is more electronic. Street Fighter 5's music is more arranged style, like you hear actual guitars and stuff like that, whereas 4, it was like, you can tell this is mostly digital music, electronic. When I mean electronic, I meant more digital. And the music's good. I put Street Fighter 5 in A tier. Street Fighter 4 is at the top of B tier. These soundtracks are amazing. Are they do they have mostly remixes? Yes. But I can't get angry whenever most of the entire soundtrack is remixes. Whenever it's like, I can get angry whenever it's like Third Strike, whenever it's reusing something for 6 characters. And there are other unique soundtracks in the game. But Street Fighter 5, there isn't like a single new sound that isn't a remix to like past characters. There's very few instances of it. If you're a Street Fighter 5 character that's returning, odds are it's a remix anyway. There's no precedent. Whereas Third Strike, you had 2 games before that had their own music. And then you decided to bunch characters together and then make another remix whenever Second Impact made its own style, and so did New Gen. Whereas Third Strike, the remixes are, at that point, should have gotten new music. And Street Fighter 5 didn't have 3 separate game releases, iterations. I couldn't fit all of that in the title, unfortunately. I have a habit of, when I'm typing, I type too much. And when I'm talking, sometimes I talk too much. But yeah, I would have put that as my whole title. Yeah, this stuff, they have their own sound despite a bunch of them being remixes. The remixes have a vibe. Comments have my scared a little bit. Yeah, they probably need to. Otherwise, some streams would get full screens of entire text from a single person. Yeah. It is a, it is something that needs to be analyzed, and retrospectives are important. And I think I'm qualified to give my opinions on a lot of this stuff as someone who's studied it and been listening to it. And every Street Fighter soundtrack I've listened all the way through multiple times. And there are people that are calling out this soundtrack that haven't listened to every Street Fighter soundtrack. It's like, how are you going to call this the worst? Have you listened to Alpha 2 Gold specifically, to Alpha 2's? That's a separate game. It's like, can you really call this one the most ass? Like, I don't even think you're qualified to be talking shit. Yeah. So remixes are fine. I'm not saying you should never remix. In fact, there are clever ways to remix that I really love, where if there's different stage themes from character themes, you can use those to remix old tracks and stuff. If a location bears some weight to the character story. And Street Fighter does it, but few do it nowadays, where Street Fighter 6 is still having stage themes and character themes. You're getting like double the soundtrack, which is crazy. So like, this is Ryu's stage theme. Once again, completely unique. People are calling this ass. I remember hearing this in one of the first trailers that showed off gameplay. Be like, when's this coming out? It changes depending on the round, too. And if you're at low health. They didn't have to do that. They didn't have to do that at all. Like, stage themes and stuff having unique based on if you have low health or if you go between rounds or round 2 if you're making the final round. And final round low health specifically. Like, oh, you're at low health? Kick it in. Get going. Like, they care so much. And the fact that people are just writing this off. Yeah. This is the sickest. And then the round's over. Like, low health, having the low health, like, desperation mode is perfect. It's so cool. It adds tensity. Like, if you're a spectator, it adds tensity. If you're playing, it adds tensity. Like, round 2 is different. And you get to that final round. This goes so hard. This goes so hard. Yep. Music's beautiful because of the way that it can use emotion and play with emotion and incorporate it into it to just how it sounds. Yeah. And so that apparently is the worst Street Fighter soundtrack of all time, but Third Strike's the God soundtrack. Like, let's once again go back. I know I'm ragging on Necro and 12's song. I love Snowland. This song is great. But the fact that this is... I love this song. But they're okay with this weird shit. I am too. But they ain't fucking with Genbu Temple from Street Fighter 6. I don't get it. I'm like, can you tell me? Make it make sense. Can you tell me, people? Like, these people are making this comment. Can you make it make sense? Of why you like this? I know it's rose color. I know it's emotional attachment. I know it's nostalgia. I know that's why. But give me like give me an objective reason. Because if you can't, then like... then I would just tell you to stop. I would just tell them to stop talking. Like, that's all I would tell them is... like, you're okay with that drum and bass, but not the other drum and bass. Like Makoto. This song kicks ass. But why do you vibe with this? Wholesale above the Street Fighter 6 stuff. If I am not given a reason other than nostalgia, if I'm not given a reason other than pure absolute fanaticism for Third Strike's existence, or I've heard it enough, now I like it. One, I'm gonna call you out for the I heard it enough, so I like it and stuff like that. Do you remember if you liked it immediately or something? And if it took you that much time, it's like, well, then give Street Fighter 6 a chance. Give the songs a chance. I know it doesn't matter. The people who are talking shit, like I said, are going to buy the game. But this is more like me in defense of these soundtracks and how I think that they're misunderstood. And I think that people don't know where their allegiances lie. There's need to be allegiances, but there clearly is some favoritism. And it's favoritism that doesn't extend in the reasons that why they like Third Strike should be why they also like 6's vibe and style. Because 6 is very much invoking Third Strike. And do you like that's the problem. Is that I can't I want to talk. I just want to talk. That's why I'm going to be clipping this stream eventually. I'm going to go into Premiere and edit it. I'm going to download it off of YouTube. I don't care about the quality. I'm not recording it right now. I'm just going to YouTube it, freaking video download it, which is going to make the quality worse, but you know, I forgot to hit record. But it's getting streamed anyway. And just kind of spread these around if I can. I'm going to post the tier list to get engagement and piss people off. I know how this works. I know how to make people mad. And I'm going to be like, oh, well, here's my opinions on why I put these here. When in reality, I kind of just, first thoughts and all these, I kind of just put them where I thought in my head I'd put them. I didn't give them too much thought besides the 3-second impact and Third Strike. That's the idea. When I hit it big, I'm going to be touting this stream as like, hey, go back and watch this bit of my content. I might just do like, I might just restream it at some point when I like. Preserving this, yeah, I find it very important, and I'm interested. This will be now a time capsule in the future when FF6 when SF6 comes out in June. I'm gonna come back to this video after December, let's say, because it's gonna be out for like 6 months at that point, and. Oh, don't worry, I'll remember you. But, yeah. You don't gotta worry about that. I got you. But, yeah, it's how it is. This stuff carries weight. And when I look back after the first 6 months of this game being out, I'd love to see people's changes to their opinions on the soundtrack. I would like to see people say, oh, it grew on me. Or, nah, I hate it more. Or I did like it, but I didn't like it before. Or I really didn't like it, but now I actually do like it. I genuinely want to know at that point what people's opinions are overall with the game's soundtrack. and whether or not they think it accompanies the game's style. Because that's another thing. You cannot vibe with the soundtrack and appreciate that it fits the style of the game. You can appreciate a soundtrack whenever it contrasts the style of the game. You can appreciate or you can do either. You can just say, I don't think this fits at all, but I love the visual style of the game, but maybe not the audio style. It doesn't have to be one or the other. It's why it's hard to grade legacy fighter moments. Like Super Turbo, I don't listen to Super Turbo music. Like every one of these, besides Street Fighter 2's music, I kind of vibe to. There's even some Infinite themes and some Capcom Fighting Jam themes that I listen to. But Super Turbo is old. The music is very much of its time. But there's no reason for me to go back to listen to these whenever there's a billion remixes. So maybe I'd go back and listen to Street Fighter 2's music more if it was more like, oh, that was their Street Fighter 2 theme, and this is their separate themes from all the other games. But I'm not putting these songs on my playlist. Whereas everything else on this list, I pretty much am. So it's hard to rank. Like, if I'm ranking on like re-listenability, I don't know where I put Super Turbo, but I have to put. I love it's the Panasonic freaking port thing. I'd have to think about where my placement would be of Super Turbo because the legacy's there. I can't. It maybe should be S tier. Legitimately, because it literally inspired everything. That's why it's hard whenever you're ranking like top 10 fighting games. Like Street Fighter 2 is on there, not because Street Fighter 2 is a particularly good game. That game is broken as hell, but then a lot of these games are. But because it's the grandfather, it's the one that started it all. And people still play it competitively, and it's really fun to watch competitively. Super Turbo is really fun to watch competitively, but where would I rank it based on just its soundtrack if there was no legacy? I don't know. Probably below B. But that's not because it's on the actual game. It's because it's old as hell. The sound chip's old. Didn't have that clean Capcom Q sound that the later on CPS2, CPS3 games had. This was CPS 1. That's the arcade board, by the way. I just realized I was just talking about so much nerd stuff about arcades, but yeah. Arcade boards, the arcade boards, which is basically what the computer inside of it. It's like basically imagine you have a console inside. It's the giant brick of a console that's inside an arcade machine that it's like an engine that all these games can run on. Because it's not just a big screen with a bunch of motherboards. So there's a big, essentially a player inside the arcade machine called an arcade board. And it's why arcades looked way better than consoles back in the day. Because it was gigantic compared to consoles, which did not have enough space for that technology. And that's why arcade machines cost like thousands of dollars. Getting off track, though. Yeah. I'm actually going to, that ain't great. I'm glad to be sentient. I'm glad I can chill and feel emotion and vibe. Did I think I would be when I was like 10 years old? Did I think I would be here discussing Street Fighter music at a high level Street Fighter music discussions? No. But damn, am I glad I'm here. I need to finally share this with people. Hopefully they have the haunted arcade machine. Yeah, that haunted arcade machine. Polybius. It's just crazy to think that most of the places you'd go to, unless these things were cranked up, you would barely hear this music, and they were putting this much work into it. They were going ham. This music you're hearing, that's a good screenshot. This music you're hearing is for an arcade game. And it's crazy inspired. And it's like, unless your volume is turned hella up on just your second impact cabinet, you're barely going to hear this music. As someone who has been to many arcades and spent a lot of their youth in arcades, very few instances where you got to just vibe to that music. Every arcade is trying to compete for your attention, especially back in the day. Back in the day, every arcade is loud as hell to try and get you there, but that means that it's just a cacophony of noise. But they still did this because music is that important. And they never stopped. It makes you even think that a lot of this stuff, like why like a lot of it was remixed, is because they were like, well, it's an arcade game. Maybe they didn't care that much. But then in the Street Fighter 3 series, they went ham. But then Street Fighter 4, where it was mainly a console game, even though it came out in arcade first, which is wild, in 2008. It was on arcade first in 2008, mostly for just in Japan. All remixes again, so is Street Fighter 5. And don't get me wrong, every soundtrack has some misses, except for new generations. Like I said, there's a reason. There's a reason my New Gen's S tier. New Gen's... I didn't play much of New Gen soundtrack so far, but... Gil's theme, this character's theme in the New Generation AST, which is the arranged soundtrack, is... goddamn incredible. It's like... Oh wow, thanks game. Thanks for the freaking thanks for the horny art of alternate Ken. Thanks. But yeah. Judgment Day. Gil's theme here is probably one of my favorite fighting game songs ever. This song has no reason to go this hard. People talk about, dude, Third Strike was like whenever Street Fighter was hip hop. This is real shit that people talk about. Yeah. This is real shit that people talk about. Where they talk about how Third Strike was whenever it was hip hop. That New Gen and Second Impact were just like the old games and stuff, which is just not right. It's just everyone kind of following what everyone's saying. Like, oh, dude. But then explain this shit. I played this in the background of some of my streams too. But they're like, Third Strike is whenever Street Fighter was hip-hop. Why'd we lose that sound? Here is 3 New Gen, which people criticized for being like, oh, the sound in this game. It was like, this is the arranged version. This wasn't the main arcade version, but this was still before Third Strike. This is not... This is not a song that was used for this soundtrack or anything. This is a completely original piece of music. Mm-hmm. This is 10 freaking songs of nothing but bangers. The soundtrack is S tier. It's rare that Street Fighter theme gets lyrics, but it happens sometimes. Yeah. But Third Strike was whenever it was hip hop, though. Man, New Gen and Second Impact, the music was like, oh, like, this was when it got hip hop, and it's like, no, no, no. You're just wrong again. And it's like, yeah, don't do your research. Always do your research. And I don't blame some people because Street Fighter 3, the fact that people thought Third Strike, if you just get into Street Fighter 3, or not Street Fighter 3, if you just get into Street Fighter, I wouldn't blame you if you were like, wait a minute, there's 3 Street Fighter 3s. It's just how it was. Oh, no, not the Wi-Fi. I'm sorry. But I wouldn't blame people for being like, wait, there's 3 Street Fighter 3s. Well, it's like, yeah, there is. That's just how it is. That's just the 90s. That's just what Capcom did. But like, once you learn that, you should go back and reassess and know that Third Strike wasn't the start of Street Fighter's hip-hop influence. It started in the first Street Fighter 3 game. They were already setting up. Once again, Third Strike is great, but it's not the Messiah. It's not some infallible masterpiece of music when it comes to soundtrack. '97. Let's see when let's just keep driving the nail deeper. I said 97, right? Oh wow, Third Strike came in 1999. That's crazy, but I thought hip hop started in Third Strike. Oh. And they even say it in the song, it would be like, well, maybe the arranged soundtrack came out after everything was said and done. Nope. You don't get to get out of this. Nope, 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 nope. Misconceptions about the Street Fighter music history. Actually, you were talking about Street Fighter themes with lyrics and how Street Fighter music is so many different genres. You want one with lyrics. You like Street Fighter 5 soundtrack, like I said, there's a reason why I put like close to top of A tier. They have every genre in this. This song kicks ass. Yeah. Yeah, there's occasionally they bring in lyrics, and usually they don't miss. Um, but the yeah, it's got metal. They touch every base. Street Fighter V's music is really freaking good. There's like this guy has the biggest soundtrack of any fighting game of all time. This is just There's 112 musical tracks in this. Because every stage, there's a shit ton of stages. Street Fighter V soundtrack is kind of ridiculous. And a lot of them, whenever they were making new characters, are some of the ones that people love the most. I just realized this is just this ain't even the character themes. So yeah, this is 112 plus 50. Where is it? Is Rashid? Yeah. This is one of the new characters for the game. This is one of the new characters for 5. And because there was no remix to be made, because they were completely new, they decided to create a banger. Just because they could. What do you mean right ear, bud? Like, are you only hearing things in the right ear, or is my voice... Is everything only coming out of your right ear? Or coming out of your left ear? Yeah, because if my audio is messing up, it might be on my end, and I might have to fix something. Rashida. And whenever they're getting to make a new theme for a new character, they go this ham. I'm sorry about your earbuds, but yeah, they go this ham. This was at the launch of the game. This was at the game's lowest point at launch. This Rashid had this theme, and it's like whenever they get to cook, whenever they get to make themes for characters and not just be remixes. My singing voice is not that great. I'm working on it though. I'll give a few Rashidos. Can't scream too loud. It's 1:30 pretty much. Makes me want to sing though. The theme always makes me want to sing. Has that vibe. Nobody had any problem with this because it was a new character. Well, this is a returning theme and then they gave it to us. Would people care? I don't know. Rashida. Rashida. I know, it pumps you up. Yeah. And then it loops at that point. But point being, this game had a ton of new characters in it that had unique themes that couldn't be remixes because they were new characters. So they had to flex their creative muscles, and they got to really show off the composers that were involved with this. And then now, every character is getting a completely unique theme. And I was saying, I'd be really interested to see if the backlash that they've gotten... Yeah, it's already been 2 hours and 30 minutes. I can't believe that the backlash that they're getting and stuff like that, like, it might have an impact. Like, I wonder if the DLC characters are going to have more traditional themes. They'll still have a different edge to it because they want to keep a unifying theme. You don't give up a unifying theme of, like, musical style because a bunch of people are angry, but they may include bits and pieces of their old themes in their new music if the DLC characters are still getting composed, which I assume that they are. I hope they don't. I like having new themes. I like having something new to listen to. I like getting excited for the next theme instead of the next remix. I got happy whenever I was like, yo, Ryu's got a new theme. Well, then everyone's got a new theme. If Ryu's got a new theme, then everyone's gonna get a new theme. Because it's like Ryu would be the one that would never change. So they start with Ryu, tell us Ryu has a new theme, and that immediately just lets me know, oh, okay, everyone's got a new theme then. You change Ryu's character design and his theme, everyone's getting a new theme. And so far, that's just been it. And they could have done where they made Ryu's stage theme be a remix of his old theme, but they didn't. Which I think is very important to point out. They could have just said, oh, well, if you want, we'll just give you the remix as a stage theme. But no, they are that committed to making something new. They're that committed to making a unique style that focuses on moving forward instead of looking to the past. It embraces its past and acknowledges it. And it has tons of Easter eggs already from... The game isn't even out yet, but there's already tons of Easter eggs and tons of details that are for the people like me who have been playing this series since forever and love the history of it. It rewards that. But it isn't stuck in that past anymore. And I think it's really interesting that the music is getting the brunt of that disdain, I should say, I guess, of moving forward when everything else is sort of hyped up that people like. I haven't seen people with a problem with Chun-Li's design or Ryu's design or Guile's design or Kin's. People are hyped up about that, but the music is the straw that breaks the camel's back for them. And that's interesting. Everything else they're happy with moving forward and changing. But the music changing, not for me. Despite the fact that I feel like they'd feel... In a year, I guarantee you, if it was just remixes again, people would be thinking, man, it stinks that everything else in this game is about moving forward, and yet their themes are still the same. I guarantee it! I would put $100 on that. If I could go to that alternate universe. If I could go into that other dimension and see it. A year into the future where all of the themes are remixes and people will probably be talking about like, damn, with how much characters have been pushed forward, it's weird that their themes are still the same. Because I think it would be weird. I think that would stand out. So I don't even think they had a choice. I think changing the themes was not only something they wanted to do, but something they had to do. Otherwise, you run into a very big problem of a conflicting statement about your characters. I'm making hand gestures and stuff because that's just how I am. Y'all can't see them, but I am. And a lot of this stuff that is being changed is being changed in a way that is almost entirely positive. There hasn't been a thing yet that people have been pointing out to as like, this is a change for the worse. Except for these group of people that are talking about the soundtrack. Which is arguably the most subjective thing. So it's a rough, you're put into a rough situation. But mostly this stream was about kind of calling people out, but also educating and talking about and giving a retrospective and an analysis on the musical identity of this series and how closely tied with the visual identity it is. I can even pull up my favorite website, Fighting Game Backgrounds, by the way. Heavily recommend everyone watching this stream to go here. Doesn't have everything, but does have a lot, because Fighting Game Backgrounds are my favorite. About how Street Fighter 3, like we talk about Third Strike's visual style being like hip-hop and stuff like that. This is a Third Strike stage. New York, graffiti, subway tunnel. Really freaking cool. One of the most iconic stages in fighting game history. And you have like Alpha. Things are mostly brighter. There's some that kind of embrace that sort of idea, but like things are much more like almost like comedy. Played up for comedy. Not all of them, of course. Like Gens is really freaking good, but he's a sinister character and stuff like that. But there's a sort of atmosphere to the 3 series. I wish that one was animated. Makes it seem like a little bit more real. I mean, a bit of a grunge to it. There's not even a divider. It's England. It's hell over there. But, yeah, this site is incredible. You can get some amazing stuff on here. It's actually a bunch of my computer backgrounds with this. Really can appreciate their work. But it attributes to a visual style. So let's, for example, use this to SF3, second impact. Street Fighter 3, Third Strike. Yun and Yang theme. Yun, Yang theme, same theme. Cottage Street. When you're given a visual, song can have extra layers to it. Have extra meaning to it. Can convey a completely different vibe. And kind of, you're unable to separate it sometimes. And sometimes a song can be so good that you can just imagine where it is. Like you could already picture, like if you were to hear this without the visual view, like the visuals, this kind of has like a rainy neon ambience to it. Stages and the music that go to them are hand in hand. Yeah. This stuff, like this is also my shit. Is old 2D game. Yeah. This stuff is some of my favorites. It's just, I'm trying to archive pretty much all of fighting game backgrounds I can find so they won't be like lost media, because it's really hard to rip them wholesale. Like it's hard to get a full stage rip of old fighting games. It requires a lot of effort. But yeah, this is super chill. The storm in the background and stuff, and this music fits. And it's like, it's important that your themes go together with locations if you're combining them. So it's like, this is a subway, like loud subway. The cans are rattling on the floor. Like light, very warm light, graffiti. This is an active place. There is evidence of movement, people being around. Whereas the other one was very kind of ambient, lonely almost. This one's like, no, you're just down the... It's late night in New York City. Someone's got the boombox on. Music needs to fit to the location. Yeah. Got that overpass as well. Yeah, there's connecting like areas, like there's a sense of transientness to it, like almost liminal space, but you got the train moving in the background. But there's, like I said, it's not as lonely as the Yin and Yang stage. Mm-hmm. There's details to tell you everything you need to know. Dirty subway, they're trying to clean it up, or someone might be throwing paint on this and stuff. Cans everywhere, trash. Perfect. Atmosphere is sold to you. It's just grand. And why am I pointing this out? It's because you need to apply a when a stage is so directly tied to a character's existence, you can't just use it over and over again. If it's a new stage, it doesn't fit. So you might see where I'm going with this. That Jazzy NYC, that theme has been remixed since New Generation. So this is the one for this stage. It's not animated, unfortunately, because like I said, it's hard to rip these stages. Dun, dun, dun. It's a bit faster. You got people in the background. You're on the streets now. It's daylight. You're in the back alley. There's people in the windows. You got the cop, like the police sirens. Yeah, liminal spaces are their own entire deal you can investigate. But this fits more to this location. Like, I love the police siren being a part of it. So even though it's a remix, or the Third Strike one is a remix, it had to be altered to fit. I don't know why I left FGBG. Oh, damn. I'll pull it up again. It has to be altered to fit this new stage. We have to change it. but it still has to invoke that there's an identity to it that is carried. Still New York, still grungy kind of, but a different type of grunge. Yeah, downtown. That's a great way to put it. Like, and this is for Alex. Like the American New York guy and stuff like that. The other one was from like Hong Kong and stuff. The one that was at like rainy nighttime. And then let's go to the second Impact Alex theme. Let's investigate this one. We had it on earlier, but now his stage on a rooftop. Chinatown Wars. I played that game. The game's actually good. I played that game. I swear. But this theme, yep, it's New York City. Every one of his stages are New York City. And now it's a bit airier. You know, it almost has like, it has a light tone to it. A little bit more carefree, like you're chilling on top of a roof just looking at the sky. Has that feel. Much more open. Yeah. No worries. It's much more open. It's lighter, I'd say. There's a much lighter feel. I'm actually going to go use the bathroom real quick. I will be right back. I want to continue this. Ugh. All right, I've returned. So yeah, getting back to what I was saying, every one of these remixes of Jazzy NYC is altered to fit the new location, but is tied to New York. As it's called Jazzy NYC anyway, but even if it wasn't called that, there's a certain vibe to the song. And you'd have to heavily alter it to be near, like, unrecognizable to take the essence of it out of it. And it is for that reason why I think that constantly doing remixes is inherently limiting, because you build a theme in mind with a stage most of the time, especially in Street Fighter. And so they're inevitably going to be tied to that location or that type of location. Almost all the time. And that, to me, it must feel so, like, limiting in terms of, like, building upon a character and their growth and their just general vibe. Giving them new songs and new character designs lets you expand their range as an explorer of the world they're in, as opposed to just being someone who is, that's the guy you find at the temple. That's the guy you find in New York City. That's the guy that you find at the Air Force Base. That's the guy you find, and continue on and on and on. It doesn't need to be this way for them to expand. Obviously, Guile could stay at the Air Force Base and have a new theme. But it inherently limits where a character can go whenever it's like their theme tied to their stage is so important to their design and their existence. And once you make that their actual, like, a piece of them, it's like wherever Alex is going to be in New York. He never goes anywhere else. Like, that's his stage. And there's nothing wrong with the place where you grow up and where you live to be part of your identity. But it also feels like he's held hostage. Like, Alex, the character, until he gets a new theme, he's going to be stuck here. Because in Street Fighter 5, before he was even playable in the game, the New York stage, he was in the background, and people were like, whoa, holy shit, he's in the background, but people were bummed, why isn't he playable? And then he became playable, and whenever you play him, he's not in the background anymore. But he's still in New York. It's not even his stage. He doesn't even get his own stage in this game. And he's still stuck in New York. He's still stuck out there. It's like he's been everywhere now. Like, oh, he had a stage where he was in the back streets, in the alleys. He has a stage where he's on the roof, and he has a stage where he's in the subway. Where has he not been in New York City? Well, he hasn't been on the streets yet. Well, now he is. Now he's on the streets. I was explaining how a character's visual tie to a stage, and like how Alex feels tied to a location. He's the New York guy. All these stages are New York City, just different pieces of it. And because it feels like until his theme changes, or he gets a new one, it's like he's being held hostage in this city or this locale because of the association with the actual place. And it's like I was explaining how every character, until they get like a new theme, their stage can't be too different. They can't go with them. They can't grow. And I was saying that there's no reason why that has to be like the opposite or anything like that, because Guile has a new theme, but his stage is still an Air Force Base. But because like you start to tie a character to a location. Like Guile is the Air Force space guy, Ryu is the on top of a temple building guy, because that's his theme started there, and all of his other themes have him being just on top of different temple buildings. And with Alex, even in Street Fighter V, when he came back, because he was gone for close to 15 years, or a little bit more than 15 years, he shows up in the New York stage. Not even his own stage, but the New York stage, where now he's basically been everywhere in New York City. Like, he's been in the back alleys. He's been in the subway. Yeah, it is cool. And it's cool for Street Fighter 3. I agree. It's cool. It's like, oh yeah, for Street Fighter 3 and stuff like that. But in Street Fighter 5, he's still tied to New York because people just associate it so much with it. I love the fact. Yeah. It all ties together. And what you're experiencing now, like what you're talking about right now, is why the themes are so cool, is because they apply to the area they're in. Stages and themes aligning. But whenever you're a character like Guile, Alex was gone from Street Fighter. He was only in the Street Fighter 3 series and didn't appear in any other mainline Street Fighter game until 5. 15 years later. More than 15 years later, like close to 20 years later. And so he didn't have as much of a direct connection, but like, yeah. But Guile, for example, Air Force Base. Air Force Base. Air Force Base. And then an Alpha. Where he was kind of replaced by Charlie, who was just another Air Force guy. It was also an Air Force base. And Street Fighter 6, even though he got a new theme, he's still an Air Force base. So he's still kind of stuck there. But if you look at Ryu, on top of a temple. Stuff. Still gotta have a temple in the background. Gotta have it. And Alpha 2 didn't really change that much. Got a little bit different here. But look, it's just a different time of day. There's still a temple in the background. It's like he's always going to be tied to that temple. Even whenever he got a new theme. And, because 3 he got multiple new themes, but he's on top of a temple again. But then, in the GOAT generation, I believe he got a new spin on it. Yeah. In New Generation, he got this cool, like, very traditional Japanese, like, village. No temple. He gets to be around people. It's no longer, like, he got a new theme in New Gen. And it let him be out of his temple zone. He was no longer tied to the temple. So now it's like, yeah, my point being is that the keeping the remixes also limits where you can put these characters if you give them a stage. So you're inherently limiting your creative output when you're making a game. And you might think that, well, what if they just don't care? Well, they care a shit ton, and they always have. They put in a ton of effort, even back in the day, whenever, like I said, you could barely hear what was happening in an arcade. They do care. This matters to them. It very clearly does. They want to supply you with an experience where it feels like that the theme applies to where you're fighting at. And then in Street Fighter 4, where they started making it so character and stage themes are different, you lost that a little bit. I'm okay. I like it. I think it's cool getting both. But like stage themes that are the character themes, I prefer the most because it's cool to see how like this is their area and stuff like that. But they're still related to the characters. Like Ryu's stage in SF6, the one that's coming out, is Genbu Temple. At least in my eyes, it's Genbu Temple. The one we listened to that had the badass desperation music and stuff like that. Yeah, look at the stage. You're fighting in this, like, crazy Sakura Blossom, Torigate water pond and stuff like that, and you're listening to this, like, Japanese, like, drum and bass mix of, like, ancient flutes and stuff like that. But you have that drum and bass contrasting with... we always go back to it. Contrasting with the old ways. So it's like more traditional Japanese instruments, but with that modern drum and bass and like kind of like it's not it's the combination of old and new, because that's what SF6 is the old versus the new. That's the actual vibe of the game, is that it's the World Warriors from Street Fighter 2 and then all new characters. So it feels like this gives you the vibe of the clashing of the old generation and new generation, which is also what I was talking about. Yeah, this song, I never get tired of this one. But what I was talking about before, where it's like almost like the competitive versus casual, where it's like you need to accept new people in. And this game's all about the new generation. Even though there's the game that's called New Generation. But the actual like new generation of fighters, like we are not in our old ways. We are combining what people loved about the past games and giving them something new. It's great. It's freaking awesome, and it tells you something about what you're dealing with. And would you believe it? Despite having a new theme and a new stage theme, he's still at a temple. But it's not this grand, giant temple he's standing on, which I think is a cool detail here. Whereas in like Third Strike and stuff, where he's on this giant, massive structure. Even in Street Fighter 5, you can get a Street Fighter 2 stage again. He's in this massive ass structure. Now, it's like personal. It's like this might be his temple. He's a master now. It's like it's much more intimate compared to the other temple stages and stuff, which at least is a difference there. So come have a stage, Nava. Yeah. But yeah. Music's important. Music kicks ass. And for Street Fighter, music is a part of the DNA of the game's just life. And there's this Street Fighter 6 to sort of clash of wills that is the soundtrack, and whether it's good or not, made me realize that some people need to know their history. And I'm not going to blame you if you didn't know, but I want you to do the research, or like watch like people to watch or listen, or just go in and just learn about this stuff. Because if you're giving your opinion on it, I want to know that you know your shit. Yeah. I got no problems if you don't like the music. That is Street Fighter 6. But it's like you're saying that Street Fighter 6's soundtrack is the worst? Like, dude, like, well, you can't. I would say Street Fighter 2's. If we're talking about just a listen. Because if you're including Legacy, then you're admitting to, like, very much prioritizing something like Third Strike over other stuff because of everyone just talks about how Third Strike's the best and how it's perfect when it's not a perfect game, and its soundtrack definitely isn't perfect. I love Third Strike. It's probably my most played Street Fighter. As a game, it's, I think, one of the most fun fighting games I ever played. Does it deserve the hype? Yeah. But does it deserve to be reveled as the savior of everything and it's having the best soundtrack and best visuals and best just definitive way with no contests and no other challengers is wrong. So yeah, I probably would have more to say, but I've been talking for 3 hours and 8 minutes. And my voice is starting to go a little bit. So I think I'm probably going to call it around here. There probably are more things I'll think about that I should have said. But we may go back to this tier list another day and really analyze it and give my thoughts on everything, but I don't think I have the literal voice left to be talking like this, to go in depth on my reasons for everything. Just know that I am vehement that new generation with the arranged soundtrack is the best Street Fighter soundtrack. Yeah, I think that was at least 10,000 words. I'll go count them. Don't worry. I'll spend the next week captioning this video. And go and check how many words I said. But I'm really glad that I took the time to do this because I've been really meaning to. And even though I ended with some, I rambled about occasionally, I said what I mostly wanted to say. And I'm glad that I had everyone here to listen to it. It means a lot. And this is going to be the first of many. They're not going to happen like every other day or anything like that, but there are a lot. I am a very spirited person whenever it comes to things that I care about, and I love giving in-depth explanations and analyzations of things that I like and structuring them. And I'm glad you were here too. You're getting the a first of many call out streams and instigation streams and analyzation streams where we just kind of vibe and talk about stuff. Because even though it's like I'm talking about people that I think are wrong, I still enjoy this. It's a joy always to go back and talk about this stuff. So yeah, thank y'all so much. I'm going to let I'm actually going to put one of the Street Fighter 3 arranged tracks that I really love as background to play us off. And I wish everyone an amazing night. What should I put on? All these are freaking incredible. It's hard to choose. Ibuki's is pretty damn good. Yeah. I will see y'all later. I'm going to put this to ending soon screen and enjoy the vibes. I will catch y'all around. Bye.